Who would have believed that a 78-year-old elderly man would be here today talking to you about such an intimate and sensitive subject? When I was young, this kind of subject was kept under lock and swept under the carpet. There was no discussion of sex, much less how often one should or should not hit the peak. However, it's evident that things have evolved, and I'm delighted that these changes have occurred. Nowadays, we can speak freely about these subjects without taboo, without guilt, but in a respectful way. And trust me, learning about the body never gets old. I know that I've always been a curious person. That's why when I saw this theme showing so much out there, I thought, why not talk about it? Do people truly understand how this impacts their health? After all, whether you are young or old, sexuality is a component of who we are, and the happiness it gives goes beyond any age. Now, before we begin, let me ask, have you ever stopped to think about the effects of ejaculation on the body? I'm not just referring to the act itself, but what it means for physical, emotional, and even mental health. Most individuals only believe that this is associated with short-term pleasure, but the issue is much deeper. Maybe you, who are watching me right now, are wondering, is ejaculating a good thing to do every day? Or can it in some way damage health? Or even, will it affect me in any way if I stop? Remember that these questions are not new, but the answers might be a surprise. What amazes me is how this subject stimulates so much curiosity and at the same time, anxiety. But let's face it, some men have long believed in myths and taboos concerning the male body and ejaculation. I remember being told stories when I was young that if a man wasted his sexual vitality, he would become weak and lose vigor. It wasn't uncommon to see older men concerned about how frequently they finished, as if it were a matter that could be preserved for the future. Nowadays, we understand that the human body is smarter and more flexible than that. But at the same time, research continues to uncover new things, showing how this practice, or even its retention, can impact various aspects of health. It's not only about pleasure, it's also about durability, mental balance, and possibly disease prevention. So before we go any further, I want you to take a moment and think, what is your relationship with your body? How do you handle your sexuality? And most importantly, how do you feel about this subject? Let's try to talk about it without judgment, with an open mind. Because if there is a concept I have learned during my 78 years of life, it is that knowledge is freeing. When we talk about health, like sexual health, it is never too late to learn and improve. Let's discuss something that might not be talked about generally but deserves all the attention: prostate health. It may sound like a distant topic to many people, but trust me, this small gland plays an important part in any man's life. And yes, it corresponds directly to our question, can ejaculating regularly positively impact health? You see, research, always as curious as I am, decided to explore what takes place when a man maintains an active and regular sex life. And to the surprise of many people, it turned out that this process is not just a matter of instant pleasure. It appears that it also helps keep the prostate healthy. But how exactly does it function? Reason with me. The prostate has responsibility for producing a part of the seminal fluid, which protects and transports sperm. Whenever you have a higher regularity of sexual activity or stimulation, this fluid is produced and ejected more frequently. Now imagine if all this was stopped for a long time. There is proof that this stagnation might not be very healthy. Recent research has shed light on an intriguing facet of male sexual health: the connection between ejaculation regularity and the risk of prostate problems, including prostate cancer. Studies indicate that men who maintain an ongoing practice of ejaculating more times throughout the month can have more protection against developing prostate disease. For instance, some research has found that the routine of ejaculating more than 21 times a month has been linked with a reduced chance of prostate cancer. The theory behind this is that frequent ejaculation helps maintain the circulation of fluids within the prostate, which might stop the buildup of potentially dangerous substances. When semen is expelled regularly, it can minimize the risk of inflammation and other factors that in the future can add to cancer. This preventive effect was found in multiple analyses, which compared the rate of prostate cancer among men with different ejaculation frequencies, indicating that men with a more active sexual life are considerably less likely to develop this disease. Additionally, a high frequency of ejaculation is connected to a higher production of antioxidants and other beneficial substances that can protect prostate cells. These research findings offer an intriguing insight into how frequent sexual activity can not only bring about pleasure, but also act as a preventive measure against serious health conditions. So, maintaining a healthy and balanced ejaculation practice can be one of the aspects that maintain prostate health over the years. Indeed, it's important not to oversimplify. Health is always complex, requiring a combination of routines such as diet, physical exercise, and even genetics. But this connection between sexual frequency and healthy prostate function definitely gives food for thought, doesn't it? Furthermore, we understand that the sense of well-being that comes after this sexual release is not solely emotional. Ejaculation stimulates the ejection of prolactin and oxytocin, hormonal substances responsible for providing a sense of relaxation and tranquility. And let's face it, feeling comfortable and relieved has a direct impact on general health. The body, after liberating itself from accumulated tensions, tends to operate in a more balanced way, but it doesn't stop there. There is another significant factor to consider, and that is age. Over the years, the body transforms, and so do hormonal processes. However, maintaining a fulfilling sexual life can help maintain not only physical well-being, but also vitality. This does not mean everybody should have an unrestricted sexual life. The most important thing is to understand that sexual health is one component in the larger puzzle, which involves all of men's well-being. Now, before you arrive at conclusions, I would like to make something clear. The optimal frequency varies from individual to individual. What works for one may not work for another. What matters here is the concept that keeping the body active and allowing it to function naturally can bring benefits that go far beyond momentary pleasure. But what if someone prefers not to ejaculate so often? Would this cause trouble? Let's see what transpires when the body decides to hold on to this sexual vitality for longer. First of all, let's discover more about what seminal preservation means. Fundamentally, it is the practice of preventing ejaculation during intercourse or even for an extended period of time. Some men do this deliberately, either to preserve their physical, mental, or spiritual energy, or even to boost their long-term sexual performance. But is this practice really helpful, or are we dealing with another trend? I understand that this concept may seem weird to many people. After all, modern society, with all its emphasis on pleasure and immediate satisfaction, barely talks about the possible benefits of not ejaculating. But I'll be sincere, this practice has its passionate supporters and defenders. They believe that hanging on to this vitality makes them stronger and even more masculine. Now, let's get to the important questions. What does research say regarding this? Is there any natural basis that justifies such habits, or is it just a trend without foundations? The reality is that there is still much to be explored. The studies on the benefits of seminal retention are primarily based on individual and anecdotal experiences. Some men say that they feel stronger when lowering their level of ejaculation. They claim they have more mental focus, less fatigue, and a sexual drive that keeps them active and productive. On the contrary, medical practitioners claim that retaining semen for a prolonged period can cause discomfort, accumulated tensions, and possibly nocturnal pollution. This means that for many individuals, the body regulates on its own, expelling excess when necessary. So forced retention might not be as natural as it seems. There is also a mental issue. For certain people, retention can create a sense of self-control and strength. For other people, it might result in frustration, anxiety, and an unnecessary spike in sexual tension. And this is where things get difficult, because at the end of the day, the goal is to improve mental health, right? It makes absolutely no sense to follow a practice that ends up creating more discomfort than benefits. However, seminal retention remains a phenomenon that fascinates many men. Some strive in their practice for a kind of detoxification from the societal pressures regarding sexuality. Other people believe this practice can enhance their sexual life in the future by allowing them to have greater control over their emotions and impulses. Whichever the reason, the main point is that each man understands his body and understands what works best for him. There is no universal remedy. For certain men, retention can bring clarity and strength. For others, the consistent practice of ejaculation is what preserves body and mind health. The key is to know your limits and not push your body into physically or emotionally unhealthy activities. Now that we've discussed both sides of the coin, frequency and retention, it's time to talk about one of the most complicated yet significant elements of sexual health, the balance between body and mind. This is maybe the most daunting part of the whole issue, Because what's effective for the body doesn't always match with what's effective for the mind, and vice versa. And when we talk about ejaculation, this balance gets even more subtle. When we delve into sexual health and the regularity of ejaculation, the balance between body and mind is important. Ejaculating frequently can bring advantages such as stress relief, improved prostate health, better sleep quality, boosting the immune system, and even improved mood. This happens through the production of hormones such as oxytocin and prolactin, which generate a sensation of relaxation and well-being. However, when it happens in excess, it can cause physical fatigue, a brief decline in testosterone levels, as well as mental exhaustion, affecting mood and even motivation. On the other hand, seminal retention, which is the way of avoiding ejaculation for prolonged periods, is also suggested by certain individuals as a way to increase physical energy, enhance mental focus, and even foster emotional control. However, retaining semen for a long period can cause frustration, anxiety, and even physical discomfort, which includes the so-called nocturnal pollution or pain in the testicles. So, my dear viewers, here's my advice. Live your everyday lives with wisdom and respect for yourself. Whatever you choose, do it for yourself, not because someone else claims it's good or bad. That was my experience after so many years, and I hope that in a certain way it helps you find your own answers.